Good Thursday morning. It is finally here, the beginning of the 2023 NFL season. Tonight, we get to see real football for the first time this new season with the Chiefs and the Lions. And then, of course, we get two primetime local games to kick off the year. The Giants and the Cowboys Sunday night, and the Jets and the Bills on Monday night. So just one more day of talking about what is going to happen as opposed to talking about what did happen. And it has been months and months in the making, and this is going to be tremendous. I'm going to be excited about it. I don't think that the Lions are going to be great this year. A lot of people love the Detroit Lions. I do not love the Detroit Lions, but I hope they put up a great fight tonight. We get off to a barn-burning 38-31 NFL opener and just smacks us in the face and makes us remember why we love the game so much. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Jay. I'm doing great, man. All excited about tonight for sure. There's no question about that. I mean, how about this contract that Nick Bosa got?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy. So that means Joe Burrow's got to be on tap very soon here. It's got to be either today or tomorrow, I believe. And I would think T. Higgins would be one of those guys that would get a contract extension. The other question is about Chris Jones. He's obviously not signed, and he's not going to play. Kyle Shanahan yesterday said that Nick Bosa will play against the Pittsburgh Steelers unless he shows up with a beer gut.
Yeah, beer gut. That's right, which I'm sure he does not have.
No, he does not have. And, when we were talking about this with J.J. Watt on our phone call yesterday, we were talking about whether or not like a Chris Jones or Nick Bosa would play if they signed their contract this late before the season starts. And he goes, look, man, we ain't the sharpest tools in the box, essentially. They just tell us to put our hand in the dirt and go get the quarterback.
Sure.
And, he'll play 15 plays. And then Coach Cowher basically says, yeah, those 15 plays could turn into 30 plays depending on what the score says. And, so he's going to play. Nick Bosa is going to play. Chris Jones will not play tonight. Doesn't look like Travis Kelce is going to play tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you got a questionable marker on him. I don't know. It's a bone bruise. It's something that I can't imagine is going to get worse if he does play. But really, I mean, what is the point at this juncture of risking any more injury if he's not 100%? I wouldn't do it. I would not play him tonight unless he was close to 100%. If he was 80% or better, then I'd play him. Other than that, I mean, they'll be okay. That Detroit Lions defense is not anything that's going to shut down Patrick Mahomes. You got 16 more games, 16 more games after this. Now they're going to be okay.
The big question is, what about your buddy there, young Joka? He's going to go off tonight. Is he playing tonight? He was banged up in preseason. I'm assuming he's playing tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I last time I saw young Joka, he was winning me money.
Yes, he was.
Young Joka, with the over in the Super Bowl, score a touchdown stuff. He was winning me money in the Super Bowl, and I will always have a soft spot for young Joka, always.
So that would be Kadarius Toney out there for people who don't know who we're talking about.
Yes. Always. Right. So maybe this is his year. Kadarius Toney to win the MVP. What do you think?
No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think his quarterback is going to win the MVP.
Yeah, again?
Yeah, why not?
Another MVP for Patrick Mahomes?
His quarterback is indestructible. And, I go back to last year. A couple guys in the league that had high ankle sprains that really, sat out, and Mac Jones comes to mind. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Patrick Mahomes had his high ankle sprain, and it came at the worst time in the playoffs, and he played through it like there was nothing wrong and played even better with it than when he was totally healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And what he did last year was remarkable, watching him, and he would grimace and it would get hurt, and we were watching how he's leaving the podium and everything else. So, Patrick Mahomes is entering a season now where, coming off another Super Bowl and another Super Bowl MVP, that he is right in this pocket where he could become the greatest ever. Now, he's got a long way to go because Tom Brady and all his championships and all his Super Bowls, and there's a long way for Patrick Mahomes to go. But this is the point where Patrick Mahomes has to start stacking them because he is right in his prime. He is as sharp as he's ever been. And you saw what he did last year. He could do it every single year if he wanted to. This right here is the prime spot for him to either take off and become the greatest ever or just be in the conversation.
Well, in order to get to the greatest ever, he's got to eclipse the season MVP. So Tom Brady's had 3 MVPs during the season. Patrick Mahomes has already had 2. He's ahead of Tom Brady in pretty much all statistical categories at his age. The other thing, too, with Patrick Mahomes, you talk about Super Bowl MVPs, he's already got 2 of those.
Yep.
Tom Brady has 5 of those. But when you look at regular season MVPs, I think Peyton Manning has 5.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers has 4?
He has 4,
right.
Yes.
So, these are numbers that are going to be attainable for Patrick Mahomes to eclipse. And then, maybe in 5 years, we're sitting here talking about the next GOAT of all time.
Yeah, and this is what the Jets have to contend with in the upper echelon of the AFC. And if anybody is not thinking that the Jets are going to make it to the AFC Championship game or are not going to make it to the Super Bowl, that conversation really starts with the competition at the top end of the conference. The Kansas City Chiefs, Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, in their own division, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, who have been there the last couple of years. So it is going to be a long slog, and there is a king at the top of this conference in Patrick Mahomes that if the Jets are going to do what the Jet fans think that this team is going to do, they're going to have to slay him somehow. And that's going to be the toughest thing because...
Go back 15 years, you would have said you got to slay Peyton Manning, you got to slay Tom Brady, you got to slay Phillip Rivers, you got to slay Ben Roethlisberger in the AFC.
That's right.
Andy Dalton had a really good run in Cincinnati, but they could just never get over that. They couldn't get past the Steelers.
Yeah, they could not.
Same thing with Carson Palmer. When Carson Palmer was there, and you think about Ben Roethlisberger, and you think now how Josh Allen has owned the AFC East. I believe that we're getting ready to watch Trevor Lawrence over the next 4 years. He plays 24 division games. Would you be surprised if he were 21-3 in those 4 years in the division?
No, I mean with the way that he was playing last year,
the way that Josh Allen is now, the way that he is owning the AFC East, the way that Tom Brady owned the AFC East.
Yeah, and I remember having these conversations when the Jets beat the Rams to give up the number 1 overall pick that next year with Trevor Lawrence there, and having arguments with people going, well, it doesn't really matter. How many busts have there been at the top of the draft? And yeah, there's been a ton of busts at the top of the draft. But Trevor Lawrence was just one of those guys that was coming out that everybody believed was going to be great. He wasn't right off the bat.
Well, it was Urban Meyer that screwed that whole thing up.
Well, yeah.
That's the only thing that screwed him up. As soon as he got with Doug Peterson, all of a sudden his entire fortunes changed.
Yeah, that's right.
And, so much of this has to do with being at the right place at the right time. It was interesting. I was reading Caleb Williams' dad came out and said, hold on for a sec. There may not be Caleb Williams in the draft next year because he's making $3 million in nil money for USC. And his dad said, I don't want him going to a crappy team.
Yeah, I know. But at the same time, like the difference, these guys get lots of money. It's not like the Sam Bradfords or some of these other guys back in the day before they did the slot drafting, where those guys would get hundreds of millions of dollars at the top of the draft without even doing anything, it seemed like. But they get, if you come out and you're a top quarterback or you were a top draft pick, the guaranteed money that you get in that first year is still pretty significant.
No, it's significant, but
it's more than $3 million.
But the more important thing to me was his dad said it sounded like John Elway all over again.
Or Eli Manning, too.
Yeah, Eli Manning, too. So John Elway and Eli Manning basically Eli told San Diego, we're not going there. And John Elway told the Baltimore Colts at the time, I don't want to go play for you. Now, what we now know, I don't blame John Elway for doing that because a year later, Baltimore went to Indianapolis.
Yep. Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see who it is. It sounds like they don't want to go to Arizona.
It sounds like to me that's what the message is.
Yeah, they don't want to do that.
Arizona sucks. We're not going there. And, of course, Arizona comes out and says, well, Kyler Murray's our unquestioned leader. He's worked so hard this offseason, and he starts the year on the PUP list.
Yeah. Well, some of these teams... All right, so the Panthers drafted a quarterback this last year. The Colts drafted a quarterback this last year. So those teams who could be bad.
Houston
also drafted a quarterback. That's another one. If they end up at the top of the draft, that'll be very interesting to see what happens.
Arizona's the team.
And the Buccaneers.
Well, the Buccaneers still have good players. And, Baker Mayfield can play. I don't think he can play to the level that everybody thought he was going to be able to play to in the NFL. But maybe Baker Mayfield will be this year's Geno Smith.
Yeah, I mean, this time last year, we were talking about how we thought maybe the Seahawks were tanking, and they ended up going to the playoffs.
And Geno Smith found his game, and all of a sudden the lights turned on. And when you think about who the Bucs do have and who he is throwing to, he's got a couple of really good wide receivers. They're a physical defensive team. They're a big offensive line team. I mean, I'm not saying that he's going to be an all-pro. I'm just telling you that, he's a serviceable player in the NFL.
Yeah, and if you think about if the Bucs get off to a bad start and then the trade deadline is around the corner, there's a lot of talk about Mike Evans being dealt.
They would definitely trade him.
Yeah, and then that means that team is, at that point, trying to get as close to Caleb Williams as possible. Now, I don't know if the Buccaneers is where he wants to go. Who the hell knows where he wants to go? I mean, he might want to go to a team that has no shot at getting him. Like the San Francisco 49ers. You might want to go there, but there's no way in hell they're going to get him.
The league would never, I don't know. It's happened before. Eli did it and John Elway did it. But, I think the league really wants to make sure that everything is on the up and up and that the teams that, line up in the draft and, I guess the dad could say, look, we're not coming out if the Cardinals take them. He could say that.
Yeah, and it does make it easier when you're making $3 million, but I didn't like some of those takes yesterday when people were saying, well, of course he'll stay if he makes another $3 million. I mean, if you look at some of the quarterbacks this year, I forget who it was I was reading about, who got like $21 million guaranteed in a signing bonus he got paid this year. That's 7 times what Caleb Williams is making in nil money.
Well, and the other thing, too, is Caleb Williams would be smart to start his NFL career as quickly as possible so he can get to where Joe Burrow is today.
Yeah.
So he can get to where, Justin Herbert was about 2 months ago when he signed his new contract.
Yeah.
You want to get there as fast as you can, so you want to get into the NFL as young as you can.
I mean, in some of these organizations, I always think about the Cleveland Browns when they were at their worst. Like if some of these guys had gone to a different team, if Baker Mayfield had gone to a different team, or Brady Quinn, or any one of these guys, would they have become a success, or was it the organization that dragged them down and it just ended their career essentially? I mean, I think that if you're a great one, you're a great one.
I would say this. When I was drafted and I knew who Cincinnati was. I didn't really know that much. I knew who the coach was. He was the new coach, Sam Weiss. He was a rookie that year. And I was their 4th draft pick in 1984. And when I walked into that offensive meeting room and I saw the players sitting in there, I knew I was in the right spot, but I also knew that I wasn't going to play early because Kenny Anderson still had plenty of time left to play. And it was really for me to sit and watch. And when I think back to that first meeting and thinking about the offensive installation, I was completely blown away and over my head. But I knew that I was in good hands. I knew that I had good coaches, and I knew that I had really smart players and some of the best players at their respective positions at the time when I got there. And I was lucky to be there. Ultimately, when you look back on it, for me anyway, it was the place I should have been drafted. I just wish I would have been drafted earlier.
Yeah, and I don't know, like for a guy like Anthony Richardson, the Colts, he's a raw talent.
But he's got Shane Steichen.
He does, but he shouldn't be starting right away. Now, it might be the good place for him because of Steichen and the Jalen Hurts connection, and maybe you can get him going right away. But this is something we were saying going into the draft. Like, Anthony Richardson has to sit for a year. He just has to.
Like Patrick Mahomes said.
Yes, but no, you got this crazy-ass owner who went nuts last year and hired his buddy off of TV, fired Frank Reich, and then wants this kid to start because he's impatient and nuts.
I have to say that Anthony Richardson reminds me of when Josh Allen came out. They're about the same size. They're incredible athletes, and Anthony Richardson can run if he wants to, and I'm sure Shane Steichen's going to show him or has shown him some Jalen Hurts film, and this is what we like to do. This is the offense we like to run, and this is what we want to do. He's a big enough athlete and strong enough athlete to kind of get out of trouble running the ball. Where the problems come in, as you saw with Josh Allen the first couple of years, they're supermen, and they think that they're indestructible, and they do a lot of crazy things on the field. You just make you scratch your head, but you got to let them play through it, and I think that's the idea out there in Indianapolis right now.
Yeah, but you play through it, but it could end up ruining them. I mean, there's some guys who are ready for it, and there's some guys who are not.
Seems like a good kid and says all the right things, all the interviews I've seen, all the stuff the coaches are saying. But, of course, they're going to be saying that about him now because he was the 4th overall draft pick.
Well, yeah. I mean, and everybody's excited about it. I know it's tough to sell a fan base on, Gardner Minshew to start the season. But, at the same time, if that's the best thing for your future, it's the best thing for your future. I mean, he comes out, and I think he's going to, at some point, be a highlight machine. And I knew when he went to the combine that everybody's going to fall in love with him. But if he has to sit for a couple of games after starting, I mean, we saw what happened with Zach Wilson. I mean, my God.
Trey Lance.
Yeah, well, that's
Trey Lance was picked 3rd overall.
Yeah, I mean, and now he's not even there.
Sam Darnold. Look what happened to Baker Mayfield. It's not a given that they're going to make it. And they have to learn. And again, like Anthony Richardson really does. He really have. I feel like he's where Zach Wilson was when Zach Wilson got here, in terms did he really have the right people around him to get the best out of him and to teach him how to be an NFL quarterback and what the responsibilities of that really truly are. They don't know. They have no. There's an old saying that the rookies don't know what they don't know yet.
Yeah.
And at the quarterback position is just so many things flying at you. So I don't think any of these rookie quarterbacks are going to be great. I think, maybe Bryce Young has a good chance to be okay. At least I know the coach there.
Sure.
And, C.J. Stroud has a defensive head coach in D'Amico Ryans. And at least Anthony Richardson does have Shane Steichen. So that's what he's got going for him. And hopefully Shane will be able to unlock this kid and protect him a little bit so he doesn't get hurt. Thanks so much for watching the video.
Please like and subscribe.
And don't forget to hit the bell so you're notified when we're dropping new content.